Hey there lovelies and welcome back to my channel. So as you can see from the title of today's video, we're going to be reacting to the SB19 Story Episode 1, The Ultimate Soundbreak, and this is a video by Casual Chuck. You guys have been asking if I would react to this docuseries and I'm honestly super excited to explore more when it comes to SB19. You know how much I've been loving reacting to their music, so it's going to be so lovely to be able to learn more about their journey and where it all began for them. So I'm super excited for this video. But before we do get into this one, if you guys are new to the channel, then welcome and thank you for joining. Make sure to click on that subscribe button down below to stay up to date with what I post on this channel. And while you're at it, why not leave a little like on this video as well? It really does help me to see what you're enjoying watching so I can keep on making more videos like this. But with that being said, I just can't wait to get into this, so let's do it.
When you hear the words pop music and the best boy band, who comes to mind?
Honestly, there are so many amazing
what if I told
groups.
you that the most overlooked boy
The
group in our
SB19.
generation might be these guys?
You just hit different. They're so adorable.
In the last 6 years, these guys turned a small Korean entertainment company into a company that produced the greatest P-pop group ever.
They're just so strong and powerful.
And you don't accomplish that without making a few enemies.
K-pop. Lima pala sila. K-pop pangit.
Some of them coming from unexpected places.
Oh my God.
But behind the group are 5 driven men who were about to transform what was once a laughingstock genre in music into the fastest growing genre of the world.
Ever since we had this goal, and not just for us, but for the entire industry.
Feeling ko hindi pa natin nakukuha yung recognition na
Do you know what? Already, just from this 1 minute into this video, and this is absolutely such an amazing video from what I've seen so far. I have to give props to that because I think this series is going to be amazing. But honestly, just hearing so far how much of a negative opinion that people had on P-pop music and how much of an opinion that people had on what the genre represented and just almost mimicking the fact of P-pop music and that, you know, genre, it's heartbreaking, isn't it? And I think just seeing where SB19 are beginning from in this video, you know, and having had all of that backlash, all of that negativity thrown towards them, and seeing how they've just literally turned that on its head and come back even stronger and more determined and more powerful to combat all of the people who maybe had doubts as to how far they would take this music and how far they would, you know, really be able to change the game when it came to P-pop music. I think it's unbelievably inspiring, and it really just shows how much love and passion that SB19 have for their music and everything that their music represents. And I think that just shows how much heart and love they have, doesn't it? And honestly, it just makes me so incredibly proud, even though I know I'm very new to listening to SB19's music. I think just as a person, you know, seeing another human being, seeing other people be talked about in such a way, have their dreams and their ideas and their passions be spoken about as if, you know, it's almost copying something else or it's not good enough or it's not going to exceed the expectations that people have. It's like, it breaks your heart just on a human scale, on an emotional level. So even for me as a newcomer into listening to SB19, I have so much empathy with them and, you know, how they must have felt in that time. But I also have so much appreciation and gratitude for how far they were able to come on this journey and take their music and share that with the people who, you know, have been supporting them since the beginning. It just is absolutely heartbreaking to see, but also I think shows how incredibly resilient the SB19 are. And I will say as well, I just have to mention it because I'm thinking it, Pablo's hair right here is beautiful. I have to just say that because it was on my mind.
Entire industry.
feeling ko hindi pa natin nakukuha yung recognition na dapat para sa atin.
Between disbanding before they even debuted,
all hope is lost parang nung time na yun.
Wow.
becoming industry outcasts and getting bashed by their own countrymen,
Sana magkaroon tayo ng grupo na hindi naman mga kataasan ng tangos ng ilong. Para talagang original.
Oo.
the rise of SB19 may not be the greatest Filipino success story ever.
Maganda kasi yung revenge kasi talaga yung success na ipapakita mo sa mga hindi naniniwala.
But it certainly is the most inspiring one.
Absolutely. I loved him saying that success is the best revenge, you know? really is amazing to see how far they've come despite everything they've been through, you know?
This is called Triple, a group of talented performers and comedians from Korea you've probably never heard of. They were formed back in 1994 when the word K-pop hasn't even been invented.
Oh wow.
In 2002, one of the members made the biggest mistake of his life, which will change the entire course of P-pop history. That member was Jong Song Han. It all started when he left the trio in 2002 to become an entrepreneur. Cult Triple became Cult 2. Most of their fans thought that Songhan's decision was a huge mistake because the remaining members started racking up different awards in the entertainment industry. If he only stuck around, he would have gotten those awards too. But this man's decision was final. He used all of his savings to build an event organizing company called ShowBT Entertainment.
Can I just say as well, even that, for example, you know, sometimes in life we make choices and people don't always necessarily agree with the choices we make. But ultimately, those choices are our own to make, you know, whether we rise, whether we fall, it's all down to, in a sense, fate. What's going to be will be. But I think that, you know, people thinking that they have the right to tell you the way in which to live your life, the way in which to move, the way in which to really gain success in the way that they believe is the best possible way. It's like, yes, he could have won all of these awards. Yes, he could have probably gone on to create more music himself and been successful in that, you know, realm. But also, it just goes to show, like, sometimes going against the grain, going against what people necessarily expect you to do, despite people's negative opinions, it can sometimes work out in the best possible way, not only for you, but for other people who enter your circle, you know, and I think that is true for SB19. I'm assuming, anyway, you know, him creating this company, it would obviously play a part in SB19 coming around to their success, you know? So I think sometimes it's about the bigger picture. Yes, in that moment, he could have just continued on like the other members and done music and gained awards, which is absolutely incredible, you know, and should have the recognition it deserves. But also, I think it's a great thing to encourage people to have that broader mind and say to them, you know, if you want to create something that is yours, that is something that you think is going to be, you know, a real innovative idea that's going to pursue not only your career but also other people's as well, go for it, you know. Don't let expectations hold you back, you know.
He used all of his savings to build an event organizing company called ShowBT Entertainment.
I mean, that's incredibly
Today
inspiring
we know
as well,
him as Tatang Robin.
you know.
Fast
Everything
forward to
you have, just
2015,
putting it into this one
the
company,
fight of
not
the
knowing the
century
outcome.
just happened. One Direction's Drag Me Down was all over the radio,
Oh my
and
gosh,
Big Bang
one
was
day.
the biggest K-pop boy group, while P-pop has top one project. Chances are, you have never heard of them. But somewhere in Makati, Philippines, an audition was held. Tatang Robin was looking for young talents who would be part of the package of their service as an event organizers. Talents who can perform on their own but can also serve as backup dancers and singers to their main performers. One of the main attractions of the SETA audition was if you're good enough, you might just debut as a member of ShowBT's first ever P-pop group to undergo a Korean-style training.
What an amazing
Filipinos
opportunity,
don't
you
get
know.
opportunities like that so often,
Exactly.
so hundreds of talents applied, but only 30 made it as trainees. They were initially called the ShowBT Musical Gala Team, but then later dubbed as Nara, which in Korean means country and also happens to be the national tree of the Philippines.
That's
If you're
beautiful.
a fan who is deep into the P-pop scene, you would recognize some of the future P-pop stars, but one of the most notable ones is this guy. On the first day of training, one guy stood out because he was just alone standing awkwardly in the corner.
Nung una, ang weird niya po, nagsasalita mag-isa.
He was facing the wall and making hand gestures as if he was rapping in front of it.
Nakatayo siya sa gilid. Biglang gaganon. Sabi ko, anong ginagawa na?
Even from that moment,
That
you could just
guy
see the
was
talent
John
oozing.
He always wanted to be a performer. As a young dreamer, he joined several competitions as a soloist and also as a member of the K-pop dance cover group called PHP. In training, he was the guy who shows up early and leaves late despite juggling a full-time job as a data analyst to help
Wow.
provide for his family.
See, oh my gosh. Like it's so silly sometimes how emotional I get, but even that makes me feel emotional, you know, just thinking like he literally was giving everything he had. He had such a passion and a love for this music, you know, this career that he really wanted to build for himself, that he was putting every hour that he had into continuing to train and continuing to really, you know, pursue everything that he was wanting in life, whilst also still maintaining, you know, a full-time job, his family, everything that comes alongside that. And I think that is what really gets to me sometimes as well. When you see those people who have the negative opinions on, you know, SB19 or P-pop groups or K-pop groups or artists in general, it really does get to me sometimes, like emotionally, because I think that people who say negative comments and people who, you know, like to look down on people or criticize people because of their dream or their passion or their desire or whatever they're working on, it's just like you have no idea what that person is going through on a daily basis. You don't get to see what's going on in their life. You don't get to see, you know, how hard they're working and what they're really putting in behind the scenes to graft to try and make all of what they want in life come true, you know? And I think that is something that not enough people sometimes really respect, is that yes, you see sometimes these groups who have these songs and you might not necessarily vibe with their music. You might not necessarily think it's for you. But I think there's still that respect that you can have for somebody in saying that, listen, even though maybe it might not necessarily be to my taste or my liking, I can still appreciate and respect that, you know, this group is incredibly talented and has put everything they've got into this and has spent hours working, you know, and striving for this life and giving all of their passion and love for this one thing. I think that's the thing with me. I think, for example, I might not necessarily listen to heavy metal music or, you know, other genres of music or even like films or TV shows, but I can still appreciate and respect the work that goes into all of that, and I can still appreciate and respect the people as artists. And I think that's just the bare minimum. And I think when I see videos like this and see, you know, people who talk negatively about these groups and talk negatively about, you know, other human beings, it's like, how can you have a conscience in knowing that you are diminishing somebody's dream? You are like literally making somebody feel so bad about wanting to live out their dream, you know? It just breaks my heart. It does. But Pablo, truly, from the beginning, even in that video in the rehearsal room, you could just see there was something about him that really shone, you know? And I think that probably was something that really stood out to everybody at that time as well. But I think it's just so inspiring hearing where he began, you know, and hearing how his main focus was not only this dream, but also making sure that he was there for his family. Like, it just shows how much of a wonderful, wholesome, lovely person he is.
He was selected due to his undeniable diligence and leadership qualities. He is known to have critically acclaimed songwriting ability. Some of my sources even said that he had already written dozens of songs at this time. He's also a badass rapper and was often called a genius, but consistently denied it because he claimed to be just a hard worker. This made him the destined leader of the group.
I think it's a bit of both, though. You know, I think you do have this natural talent sometimes, you know? He really can just do it
30
all.
trainees are a lot of trainees. It would take a very observant person with an eye for talent to notice Pablo in that corner. So who was that observant person with an eye for talent? Well,
Oh, he's
he was
adorable.
also a trainee. Stelvester Ajero.
Hey!
He was only a kid when he started competed as a performer. As a dancer, he racked up win after win on a national level with his school crew and became their official choreographer, teaching crewmates 2 to 3 years older than him.
That's
He later
incredible.
joined a dance crew called Seyon and went on to win international titles. Stel
Love
obviously
that.
worked so hard. Amidst his studies and competitions, he also worked part-time as a McDonald's service crew and teaching dance to kids with special needs. There was a point that
My heart genuinely can't take how amazing he is. Oh. They're all just so lovely. And they're all just so sweet and considerate and thoughtful and caring and just like absolutely amazing human beings. Oh my gosh. I just think they are a group of such wonderful people, and I'm so glad to see that despite everything they went through and all the difficulties and challenges, that they really have come out of the other side of that shining and being able to really just come into their own and be themselves and be who they are and not have to listen to other people's negativity anymore. Because I think if anybody deserved to really achieve everything they wanted to in life, it was these guys because they are just so wonderful.
Worked too hard that he wound up in the hospital. His poor health caused him to lose his earnings and nearly his life. Fortunately, he was able to recover. This made him the obvious choice to become the choreographer of the group. But little did they know that dancing wasn't his only talent. As a kid, he joined the school choir to become the only male soprano and only improved as he gotten older. He easily became the main heavenly voice of the group because his vocals were just out of this world.
He's just incredible, isn't he?
Unlike Pablo, Stel was very friendly to everyone. In fact, one of his closest friends also auditioned and made it as a trainee. This friend is nothing to be trifled with because having the worst upbringing among the others made him the strongest when it comes down to pure guts and determination. Josh Cullen Santos. He left home at the age of 16 and it was his decision. From growing up in a toxic environment to being physically abused as a kid by their nanny. I'm talking about getting poured candle wax all over their body.
Oh my god, that's heartbreaking. Oh my gosh, bless his heart. Oh, that's awful. These guys have been through so much. No one deserves that. And I just think again, seeing where he is now, seeing how far he's come, it just is unbelievably inspiring. Like, he really did just defy any and every expectation that anybody could have had of him, and I think that is such an amazing thing.
At an early age, he experienced what it felt like to be a member of a middle-class family that went rock bottom in just a matter of months. They got evicted from medium-sized apartments to increasingly smaller rooms. It came to a point when his family had nothing to eat with rice but ketchup and salt. They had no permanent address. Because of that, Josh and his sister dropped out of school multiple times, so they got bullied at school for being repeaters. Sometimes he would even get into fistfights for defending her. Josh had enough of this, so he decided to leave to become independent and started working as an internet cafe attendant. Using his own income, he took the alternative learning system to attain his high school degree.
It's just so... I know I keep on saying the word, but it is just so inspiring, hearing everything that he went through and then him just really coming into his own independence and saying, I'm still going to be able to provide for myself. I'm still going to be able to be there for my sister, but I'm also going to, achieve this education for myself as well. I'm not going to let everything that I've been through stop me from, achieving the things that I want to in life. And that just is absolutely amazing. But again, going back to what we were talking about earlier on, it does just break your heart in hearing that, they'd get bullied and they'd have things said to them because, again, you never know what's going on in somebody's life. And that's something I always try and ground myself in knowing, like, no matter what happens in life and who you meet and how somebody may act or what somebody may do, you don't know who they are. You don't know what life they've lived. You don't know what's going on in their home life or, behind the scenes of everything. So I think it's always something to remember to just hold that in your mind as well, whenever it comes to anybody in life, whoever you meet. I think it's just a natural thing to want to really understand somebody. So when you hear people, bullying somebody because of having to repeat a year of school, it's like there's obviously a reason for that, but it's just sad that sometimes people don't get to really grasp the reasons behind things, rather they just almost like play on the fact of something happening to somebody, even if that is a misfortune. And I think it just is heartbreaking, and it really is something that I wish in this world wasn't a reality, but unfortunately it is, and it just is So wrong.
Had no background in performing. Not until he found Stel performing with his dance group called Seon. Josh became an instant fan, and when they connected, Stel became his mentor, which led to them becoming co-members, and they went on to win numerous K-pop dance cover competitions all over Asia. They even met BTS during one of their winning runs in Korea.
Wow.
So from champions to trainees. What else is in store for them?
They really have achieved so much. A little bit of ABBA.
From then on, their lives became all about performing in small events and training.
We had one mentor when we were training. Tapos, more on personality development siya. Tapos, presenting ourselves on stage.
We had no idea that the Korean-style training they went through
It's far, far from what they've been doing sa Korea.
was nothing but a mere marketing strategy.
But yung skill-wise, parang ganun. We were left on our own.
They were left alone to fend for themselves, sharing knowledge to improve each other with the hope of making the cut.
So they really did just shape themselves up from the ground. You know, in those lyrics in their music now, it's even more strong for me in hearing that, you know, when they basically were saying that we sort of like rose from the ground up. It is like they literally had nothing to rely on but each other. And that was it, you know, like the people around them and their own talent. And that's it. It's just unbelievable to think of how far they've come in not really having necessarily the support that people would expect, you know?
Some sources told me that Pablo had to record some of their vocal sessions to effectively coach his co-trainees. All of that without salary. This went on for roughly a couple of years, and I don't know about you guys, but this for me sounded kind of brutal. It's
Yes,
not
I
easy
would
to
agree.
keep doing the same thing over and over and over again without any form of guidance. They were also kept in the dark about their debut date. So frustration started brewing until it reached the point when it only took one trigger to call it quits. On one seemingly normal training day, all trainees were already in the studio, except for Josh. On the same morning, the train broke down.
Nasira yung MRT during that time. Nasira yung MRT. So,
Sinuspindi ang operasyon ng MRT dahil sa power outage.
It wasn't really an accident, but this would still worry anyone, especially the trainees, because it's highly unusual for Josh to miss training. Later that morning, Josh arrived. His co-trainees felt relieved because Josh turned out to be safe. You would think that their company would react the same way, right? Wrong. They decided to terminate his training.
No, because honestly, it's just infuriating. Like, it's infuriating. They have been, at this point, doing everything themselves for years. Again, like was mentioned, not being paid any extra for having to, you know, formulate everything themselves and record everything themselves and train each other. On top of that, being led this dream and this idea for so long, all these years, you know, being told you're going to debut, being told you're going to have this life, and still not having that day come. You've given us this whole dream world and this, you know, reach for the stars ideology. And then because of one tiny error, one tiny mistake that was out of his control, you're telling me you're going to terminate his contract? Absolutely not. That has infuriated me beyond belief. That honestly breaks my whole heart because I can only imagine Josh in that moment being told that, how your heart must just sink. Because you've given all of these years of your life, all of these years of your youth to this training, and then to be told within a couple of hours, it's all gone. Like, this is it. I honestly, that's blown my mind.
Wrong. they decided to terminate his training.
Na-late ako, tapos tinanggal ako.
That was the trigger.
Noong tinanggal po ako, nag-quit din yung mga grupo ko. Nag-quit din sila kasi parang naging trigger na point na kung tatanggalin mo si
Honestly,
Josh.
Umalis kami.
so
sa
glad
grupo.
that they stuck
Ganun
by
mo lang
him though.
kadali itapon yung lahat ng efforts and passion tsaka dreams namin.
Show
Exactly.
BT had two choices: to keep all trainees or to keep no trainees. The company chose the latter. Everyone left except for Stel.
Parang si Stel lang yung naiwan po nun talaga sa training room. Tapos talagang down na down lahat.
Si Stel natira kasi doon during that time.
Stel set aside all his frustration and remained focused on his goal, while Pablo was devastated.
All hope is lost parang nung time na yun.
In Josh's case, we can only imagine the pain he must have felt to have been booted out of his dreams.
Honestly, I'm so glad that so many people stood by him in that, you know, because I honestly can only imagine how devastating that must be. Obviously for Josh, because literally it was out of his control. You know, it's not like he was in control of that being delayed that day. And it wasn't as if it was a regular thing. It was a one-off. Like, it was a one-time thing. And, you know, everybody has days where things come up and you can't stop these things from, you know, taking over your time in the day. But I just think hearing that they all stood by him and they were also supportive, despite that also impacting them and their dreams, you know, as well, it definitely is such a powerful message in how much Josh really meant to all of them, you know. And I do think as well, a lot of them were probably frustrated, and as they should have been, for the way they were treated, because to continue to be on this path for so long and not have any proper support or guidance behind you, I can only begin to imagine how absolutely frustrating that must be, you know. I think also from Stel's point of view, I can definitely see why he stayed, because you've put so many years of your life into this now at this point, that if you walk away from that, it's almost like you're giving up everything that you've worked towards. So I can understand both sides of the coin, absolutely. I just think that, again, you know, all the hurdles they face, all the challenges they face, there's always a reason for everything happening. And I know at the time it probably was so devastating and such an awful experience to go through. And looking back, it must be such a vivid memory, you know, for all of them. But I think that everything does happen for a reason, and these guys really were fated to be together. And I think that is so apparent from everything they've experienced.
Days passed, everyone still feeling down about that incident. Then Pablo's phone receives a message.
Brother,
Oh, what happened?
balik ka na, brother.
It was Josh. Out of all the trainees, the guy that got sent packing was the same guy who actively convinced everyone to continue chasing their dreams. Perhaps
Wow.
this was the sheer guts and determination from his life experiences in full display. Pablo hurried back to the studio to find Stel alone. But not for long. Josh came back next and took the initiative to convince the company to have them back.
Do you know what? Honestly, Josh is such an incredible person. You know, to have experienced everything he did in life, and still, at this point, when you've been knocked down and knocked down and knocked down again and again, time after time, to still come back fighting and saying, I'm not giving up on this. I've put too much into this to give up. And really just bring everybody back together. Oh my gosh. He is phenomenal. He really is absolutely incredible. It does just make you think, like, the more that I'm thinking about the company getting rid of all of the trainees, it's just like, how do you plan on this working? You know, if your call is to any time one person makes a mistake, you just get rid of everybody. It's like, it's never going to work. That's never going to be a successful way of looking at the bigger picture, you know? It's just absolutely wild, isn't it?
Ako doon at syempre kung kinakailangan na makiusap.
So back to training, they went.
Hindi na lang magkahiwalay ng grupo, pero bumalik sila kasi hindi nila ako iwan.
There was only 3 of them for a while. Then a few other trainees started coming back. So Show BT put together a talent workshop to get more talents to keep the business going. This was batch 1. This was batch 2.
Target Locked.
Justin De Dios. He got scouted right away because he was a very good-looking guy and already was a decent singer and dancer. When he joined, he immediately saw a familiar face in Josh.
You look familiar. As do you.
Apparently, Josh told Justin about the workshop because the two already had a stint performing together in a dance cover group called Zero to Hero. So Justin as well wasn't new in the world of performing. He auditioned to be a part of the televised Pinoy boy band Superstar, but he didn't even make it to the live auditions. Perhaps it was fate. That group is nowhere to be found today. Justin obviously deserved better. He went on to finish his college degree in multimedia arts while training, which earned him a filmmaking skill that would prove very crucial to their success in the future.
They're just all so unbelievably talented in so many different aspects. It actually blows my mind. And again, like I was saying just a minute, everything does happen for a reason, and even that with Justin getting that knockback, it's like that then led him into this path with SB19, it led him down that road. It just is like everything that's meant to be in this life will be, and they really were fated to be together.
With Justin on board, this completed their prototype boy group. It's composed of Justin, Pablo, Stel, Josh, Zeno, Kurt, and JP. They did multiple test runs leading up to their entry to Pinoy K-Pop Star 2017. They performed B-Day by Icon in an epic fashion, but they didn't win. At this point, Show BT seemed to have hit a roadblock. The group felt like something was missing. I don't exactly know what happened to Zeno, Kurt, and JP. They either quit or Show BT felt the need to let go of them and get someone who could take this already great group of guys and push them to achieve the next level. The extraordinary level. This year's in the making project of Show BT needed to reach its peak. So they started the online auditions. When Josh heard about it, he was like, I know a guy.
We all know who's coming
The guy
up.
he was talking about was a pain in his butt because their groups have clashed multiple times in their early dance competitions and their battles were always neck and neck. That guy's name was Philip John Suson. He was such a specimen.
Oh wow.
He was so naturally gifted that excelling in sports looked like a walk in the park for him. He grew up in the church under the care of his grandparents. He was an artistic kid, so he was active as an editorial cartoonist in school. Nobody taught him how to play musical instruments. He taught himself by just listening to the music, so he ended up becoming a southpaw guitarist, but he later then fixed it as he learned more. He was also a gifted singer as a kid. Every time there was a family gathering, he was always forced to sing karaoke by his relatives. But when he hit puberty, he lost confidence in his voice because he could no longer hit high notes. But his confidence came back after being mentored by Pablo, who taught him how to harness his unique low voice that seemingly sounds like it came from the underworld.
Honestly.
When it comes to dance, he didn't know he could do it until he was forced to in order to get good grades during their school intramurals.
I was just about to say as well, honestly, Ken, your voice is absolutely gorgeous and amazing, and genuinely, like I said, there is a reason for everything happening, and I think that beautiful, buttery, gorgeous tone to his voice that he has, is so special and unique. It does just make him one of a kind, and I think that's what makes him shine so much. So I think, again, it just, even though at the time seemed like something that he was a little bit conscious of, it has definitely made him grow into his own and has given him this really unique quality to his voice and who he is,
After discovering dance, he transformed from a guy who didn't know it to someone who can fly. Because of his raw talent, he ended up teaching dance to the entire school and continued on to join the dance group called Amigo 7, a would-be rival of Josh and Stel's crew, Seyon. It quickly became a reverse if you can't beat them, then join them kind of deal. So Josh recruited Ken.
Love it.
But there was a problem. He was hundreds of islands away and didn't have the money. What did Josh do? He shelled out for his plane ticket. With nothing else to lose, Philip went and left his previous life in the countryside. He then trained with the boys and officially debuted with them as Ken, the main dancer, the bass vocalist, and the lead rapper of the group. One thing to note is that they were an unlikely bunch because they wouldn't have met each other if Tatang Robin stayed with his already successful group in Korea. Justin didn't make it in his first audition, so he almost didn't try again until Josh told him to do so. And Ken wouldn't even have the opportunity to join if the Show BT trainees didn't come back after that quitting incident. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the butterfly effect. When a small and seemingly insignificant occurrence has a rippling effect through time, leading to a consequential event sometime long after the initial event. Or as Google would put it, the phenomenon whereby a minute localized change in a complex system can have large effects elsewhere. Tatang Robin's so-called mistake back in 2002 led to forming the future P-pop Kings. In 2018, SB19 was formed. The name of the group was carefully picked. The number 19 is the sum of Korea and the Philippines country code digits, 82 and 63. So 8 plus 2 plus 6 plus 3 is 19. If you subtract both numbers, you also get the same result. SB doesn't only mean Show BT. It is also about their ultimate goal for Pinoy sound to break into the music industry, which is fearlessly represented by this phrase: Soundbreak.
Absolutely incredible. Wow. Honestly, this video was amazing. So lovely. I honestly cannot believe how incredibly inspiring the SB19 are and everything they went through and all of the sacrifices they made to get to the point of where they are now. Like, I know this is only part 1 of this docuseries and I'm very excited to continue exploring more when it comes to this docuseries because it's just absolutely amazing. Like I said, the video was so insightful and incredible. I can totally see why you guys wanted me to react to this. It's definitely so helpful and I think that the production and everything was just amazing, quite honestly. But I'm so blown away by SB19. I'm so excited to continue listening to more of their music and, discovering more about them because they seem like such incredible people. And I am absolutely just having a wonderful time in learning and discovering more from them. So I hope you guys are enjoying watching the videos along with me. If you are, then make sure you click on that subscribe button down below to stay up to date with what I post on this channel. And while you're at it, why not leave a little like on this video as well? It really does help me to see what you're enjoying watching so I can keep on making more videos like this. That's all that being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day and I will see you in the next video.